Hey guys, Lonnie, Real Alcoholic. Okay, page 75. We're going to start on this step 6. After we do our fifth step, it says returning home, assuming we had to go out and find somebody to share our fifth step with. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. 1 hour. Nicknamed in our rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, called the Power Hour. We're going to find 1 hour to be quiet, carefully reviewing what we have done. Okay, carefully reviewing the previous 5 steps. Okay, we're going to thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Some of us by this time had some profound spiritual experiences. Some of us are growing into it a little bit more slowly. But I can say that probably all of us at this point know God just a little bit better. So we're going to take this book down from our shelf. We're going to carefully read the first 5 proposals. All right. We're going to go to page 58 where it talks about, it gives us a summary of all of these steps that we've been working on so far. Let me get there. 1 second. Page 59, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to carefully review these first 5 proposals. All right. We're going to sit down. We're going to look at our inventory. We're going to start with step 1. We're going to go through step 2. Maybe think about what we learned in the book on step 2. We're going to think about step 3, man. Did I really stop playing God? Do I really want to know God's will for me? We'll take a look at our step 4. We'll take a look at our step 5. Make sure we didn't leave anything out. We just kind of review what we've been through since we came into Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps we took, and where we're at right now. We ask ourselves, did we omit anything? Okay, it's real important because we're building a foundation. We're building an ark, okay, through which we shall walk a free man. Is our work solid, right? Have we skimped on the foundation? If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we look at step 6. So during this power hour, we're going to review everything we've done. And if we can say, yep, I've been as honest as I can, I have a good understanding of what's going on, then we're going to look at this step 6. We emphasize the willingness is indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? What are these things we admitted were objectionable? Our character defects. Can He now take them all? Every one? Big question mark. If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. And that's it. That's all the book talks about on step 6. Now, when they wrote the book, they added this short little couple paragraphs for step 6. To clarify a little bit this part, okay, in the Oxford movement, this is the story he sold himself short, guys, which I'm so fond of. In the Oxford movement, we had 6 steps, okay? And this 4th step, okay, this confession, that confession is our step 5, 6, and 7, okay? The writers of the book, Bill W., everyone decided that, man, we need to talk a little bit more about this confession part, right? This step 5, 6, and 7. So that's why they broke it down in the book a little bit more. And, excuse me. And so after a few years, somewhere in the 50s, I think it was 53 or 55, Bill W. wrote the 12 and 12. And Bill W. expounded a little bit more on this sixth step, man. Can he now take them all? Every one. And here's the 12 and 12. My best 6th and 7th step. Okay, I was almost a year sober. I was struggling with the issue. I had read that by the time I got to step 10, that I wouldn't be avoiding alcohol, and that I wouldn't be avoiding temptations, and I wouldn't be fighting. And I realized that, man, I was still fighting not relapsing. I was scared that I was going to relapse. I wasn't placed in that position of neutrality that they talk about. And so I was really concerned, man. I'm like, man, I don't feel this promise. Something must have happened. And I was in a big book study when we read that, and the guy said, maybe you need to go through the steps again. And so I did, man, one more time. This was like my 4th time through the steps in my first year. And so I went through the steps one more time, and the sponsor that time gave me the suggestion. He said, after my 5th step, he said, go for your power hour, read step 6 out of the 12 and 12. When you've done that, then do your step 7. So I did that. And let me tell you, it was an eye-opening experience. It really was. So I'm going to expound a little bit more, okay, on this step 6. Let's go to the 12 and 12, page 65, step 6. Okay, it's talking about here that we're born with this abundance of desire, okay? It's a natural occurrence. These instincts we talked about in our 4th step, man, we're born with that, okay? It isn't strange that we often let these far exceed their intended purpose. That's our problem. Our instincts, we're wanting more of their intended purpose. When we want more satisfaction or pleasure than's possible or due us, that's when we depart from a degree of perfection that God wishes for us here on earth. Whoa, wait a minute. Perfection? That's the first time we're going to start hearing about this perfection. Yeah, AA says, we strive for, we claim spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. Exactly. We claim progress, but you're going to see later that we're striving for perfection. And in this step 6, if I'm not ready to do that, to have God remove all these character defects, we have some prayers to do, and we need to become willing. So it goes on to tell us, we'll get into this a little bit more, that this step 6, man, it's the beginning of a lifetime job, okay? We don't expect that all these defects will be lifted out of us all at one time. Just like the desire to drink was lifted. Yeah, my desire to drink was lifted. I had no desire to drink, and actually was going to my meetings, doing my steps, doing my prayer meditation, working with sponsors, working with sponsees, that this desire was lifted. But man, I still had some character defects that were bugging me. I still had this fear of a relapse, and I had some other things going on. So we're going to be content with patient improvement, all right? We want to aim at the very best we know or can learn. That's our goal in this step, is to be ready to aim for the very best. Okay, now when we catch this attitude, this I will never give up. I got some lustful behaviors that I really enjoy. And when I catch an attitude, nope, I'm never giving that up, then I'm on dangerous ground. I got some type of gluttony going on that I really enjoy. And when I catch an attitude that says, nope, I'm not giving this up, then we're on some dangerous ground. Step 6 clearly emphasizes, am I willing to have God remove all these defects of character? And they go into a little more detail, man. Everybody wants to be rid of the most glaring and destructive handicaps, defects of character, okay? We don't want to be so proud that we're a braggart, right? We don't want to be so greedy that we're an actual thief. We don't want to be so angry that we commit murder. We don't want to be so lustful that we rape. We don't want to be so gluttonous that we ruin our health. No one wants to be agonized by the chronic pain of envy, okay, or to be paralyzed by sloth, by laziness. And it says, of course, most of us don't go to these extremes of these character defects. Remember, we all have the character defects of pride, greed, anger, lust, gluttony, envy, sloth. We all have these, okay? And most of us don't go to the extreme. And what they're trying to get us to see here is that there's not much spiritual effort involved in avoiding excesses, which will bring us punishment anyway. But when we face up to the less violent aspects of these very same defects, then where do we stand? So it's easy to avoid the pride and not be so proud that I'm a braggart, just going around bragging about myself. It's easy to be not so greedy that I actually commit a crime of theft. All right? It's easy to be not so angry that I actually commit murder. But what about the less violent aspects of these defects? And here's where our 4th step came in really handy. Was I saw that even though my anger didn't get to murder, it definitely was causing some issues in my life. Okay, less violent aspects. Let's look at some of those. All right. Let's say our greed. Man, sometimes we can masquerade that as ambition. Oh, I'm ambitious. I'm balling. I'm getting on my feet. I'm making a come up, right? Is that really greed? Or is it an ambition? Sometimes we speak about love, right? But underneath that, are we really hiding some lust in the dark corner of our minds? Something to think about. Self-righteous anger. Oh, that's very enjoyable, right? But it brings us this comfortable feeling of superiority. See, that's a less violent aspect of our character defect. Gossip. Character assassination is what that is. So we're gonna be willing. Here's our thing. We want to be willing to have God remove all these defects of character. And they talk about one more, okay? Procrastination. Another, consider too our talent for procrastination. I love the way they call that a talent, which is really sloth in 5 syllables, okay? Nearly anyone could submit a good list of such defects as these, and few of us would seriously think of giving them up, at least until they cause excessive misery. So very few of us actually think about giving up, okay, we're not going to be so lustful that I sleep with the neighbor's wife, but am I going to give up the lustful thoughts about the neighbor's wife? And I think you're getting the picture of the aspect that we're looking at here. You know, we expose some glaring defects of character, but we have some subtle issues going on with these defects of character. And am I willing to have God remove all of them? We're going to talk a little more about perfection. See, we want to settle for only as much perfection as will get us by in life. Most of us are like that. I'm not willing to give up everything. I'm going to have no fun. Life's not going to be pleasurable. We start picturing this life of gloom and doom, or we start picturing, man, this is too hard. What do you want me to do? I'm not a nun. I don't want to be a monk. I'm not joining no monastery, right? So we get all these fears and these projections, and so we're just going to settle, man. We're just going to settle for as much perfection as will get us by in life. That's what most of us do. But in this sixth step, am I willing to let God remove all these defects of character? So the difference between the boys and the men. Whoa, here's a big statement. So the difference between the boys and the men, the women and the girls, is the difference between striving for a self-determined objective and for the perfect objective, which is of God. This is what made the difference in my life, guys. Is my self-determined objective concerning character defects. I had this picture of this person that I wanted to be in the future. I had this picture of what God was going to do for me, right? I had this picture of growth, and I had this picture of being the person that I thought I should be, right? And of course, it was a good projection. It was a good goal, okay? But I was still hanging on to how that was going to happen, when that was going to happen, if it was going to happen, and I was still hanging on to some character defects I just was not quite ready to let go of. Now, does this mean that I am going to let go of them right now in this hour? Maybe, maybe not. All this step is asking is that I become willing. And whatever's not removed at this current time, people, we got step 10 to work the rest of our lives. The most important thing is, do I have this mindset where I have a self-determined objective? Or am I ready for the perfect objective, which is of God? I became a blank slate, is what I did. I became a lump of clay. And this master of the universe, this creator, I was going to allow him to mold me and to shape me into what he would have me be. I got rid of my ideas. In the third step, I got rid of my old ideas. In this step, I'm getting rid of my ideas of what I am going to look like in the future. And still to this day, it's a constant reminder that we are going to let God raise us up as children. Okay. So many of us say, I can't do all that, because that's perfection. Only step 1, where we made the 100% admission we were powerless over this alcohol once we put it in our system. We had this mental obsession we were powerless over. We had the insanity of continuing to take the first drink. We were powerless over that. All right? Only that one can be practiced with absolute perfection. The remaining 11 steps state perfect ideas. They are goals toward which we look. So we are going to look at some goals, man. We're going to look at some ideas that we strive for. And the only thing necessary is that we make a beginning. Just like in the third step, all we do is make a beginning. If we would gain any real advantage in the use of this step on problems other than alcohol, these steps will solve all my problems. I have found a way to have a conscious contact with God that will solve all my problems. It's mentioned a couple times in our literature. This is a life-changing experience. It is not a sobriety experience. We don't just quit drinking. Our eyes are towards perfection. We shall need to raise our eyes toward perfection and be ready to walk in that direction. It seldom matters how haltingly we walk. The only question will be, are we ready? That's the only question in this step, guys. It is suggested that we ought to become entirely willing to aim toward perfection. That's our step 6. And when I read this, and I honestly got rid of my ideas of what Lonnie was going to look like in the future, where was I going with my personal character? Where was I going with my job, my relationships? Where was I going with my ambitions, right? I let all that go. And it was a simple process, very easy, just to say, God, here I am. Let go of my ideas for the future. And that's it, guys. That's our step 6. When we have done that, we are now ready for step 7. Awesome. Glad y'all are hanging in there. See you next time. Take it easy.